Admiral David Park stood on the bridge of the TSS Resolute and stared at the view screen. His coffee had gone cold in his hand. He had forgotten about it completely. The alien fleet filled the entire screen. There were hundreds of ships, maybe thousands. They were massive things, each one bigger than anything humanity had ever built. They hung in space like mountains with engines, blocking out the stars behind them. "Sir," Lieutenant Commander Emily Cho said from her station. Her voice was steady, but Park could hear the fear underneath. "We are receiving a transmission." Park set down his coffee. "Put it through." The screen flickered. A face appeared. It was not human. The creature had gray skin stretched tight over a skull that was too long. Its eyes were black and empty like holes in space. When it spoke, its mouth moved wrong, like it had too many teeth. "I am Supreme Hierarch Velthos of the Dominion of the Eternal Throne," the creature said. "Your species has been noticed. You have 30 cycles to surrender all your worlds, your ships, and your people to our rule. If you do not, we will destroy you. This is not a threat. This is simply what will happen." The transmission ended. The bridge was silent. Park looked around at his crew. Some were pale. Others looked angry. A young ensign in the corner was crying quietly. "Get me Dr. Yoon," Park said. Dr. Kevin Yoon was the best xenolinguist in the Terran fleet. He had spent his whole career preparing for this moment, first contact with alien life. He had imagined it would be beautiful. He had imagined sharing knowledge and culture. He had not imagined this. "Admiral," Yoon said when he arrived on the bridge, "I have been analyzing their transmission. Their language structure suggests a hierarchical society, very rigid, very old. They have been doing this for a long time." "Doing what?" Cho asked. "Conquering," Yoon said quietly. "I think they have conquered many species. Maybe hundreds, maybe more." Park nodded slowly. "Can we talk to them, negotiate?" "I can try," Yoon said. "But Admiral, I do not think they see us as equals. Their language has no word for negotiation between equals, only commands and obedience." Park ordered Yoon to attempt communication anyway. For 3 days they tried. They sent messages of peace. They offered trade. They asked questions about Dominion culture and history. The Dominion did not respond. On the 4th day, a Dominion scout ship broke formation. It moved toward a civilian transport called the Morning Star. The Morning Star was carrying colonists to a new settlement. There were 3,000 people on board, families, children. Park watched the scout ship approach. "Open a channel to that ship," he ordered. "Tell them the transport is civilian, non-military, no weapons." Cho sent the message. There was no response. The scout ship fired. The Morning Star exploded. It happened so fast. One moment there was a ship full of people, and the next moment there was just fire and debris spreading out into the cold darkness of space. Park felt something change inside him. The fear that had been sitting in his stomach since the Dominion arrived was gone. Something else had taken its place. Something old. Something human. "All ships," Park said. His voice was calm and cold. "Weapons free." The battle began. The Dominion had better ships. They had better weapons. They had shields that could stop almost anything humanity could throw at them. By every measure, the Terran fleet should have been destroyed in minutes. But Park had not survived 30 years in the military by fighting fair. He had hidden ships in the asteroid field nearby. When the Dominion moved to engage his main fleet, those hidden ships attacked from behind. He had placed nuclear mines along the approach routes. Dominion ships flew right into them. He had loaded old cargo drones with explosives and sent them screaming into enemy formations. The Dominion commanders did not know how to respond. Their tactics were old and proven. They had used them for thousands of years. No one had ever fought back like this before. Lieutenant Commander Cho fired the main guns of the Resolute directly into the engine section of a Dominion cruiser. The cruiser broke apart. Another one down, she reported. There was something fierce in her voice now, something hungry. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Dominion vanguard was destroyed. Burning wreckage filled the space around New Montana. The Terran fleet had lost ships too. Good ships, good people. But they had won. Park sat in his command chair and watched the surviving Dominion ships retreat. His hands were shaking. He could not make them stop. "Sir," Cho said, "what do we do now?" Park thought about the morning star. He thought about 3,000 people who had just wanted a new home. He thought about children who would never grow up. "Now we prepare," he said. This was just the beginning. "They will come back with more." Far away, on a ship the size of a small moon, Supreme Hierarch Veltos received the battle report. His advisors stood around him in terrified silence. No one wanted to speak first. No one wanted to be the one to tell him what had happened. Veltos read the report 3 times. Then he laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "Interesting," he said. "They fight like cornered animals." He turned to his admirals. "Send the invasion fleet, 3,000 ships. Let us see how long the animals last." The war had begun. President Grace Kim had not slept in 4 days. She stood in the war room beneath the Rocky Mountains and watched the holographic display that showed human space. Red dots marked Dominion fleet movements. There were so many red dots. 3,000 ships, General Thomas Back said. He stood beside her with his hands clasped behind his back. His face showed nothing, but his eyes were tired. "They will reach New Montana in 12 days. Kim nodded slowly. "And how many ships do we have?" 642 combat ready, another 200 in repair." "Not enough." "No, Madam President, not nearly enough." Kim turned away from the display. She walked to a window that looked out at nothing but rock and buried machinery. Somewhere above her, billions of people were waiting to hear what she would say. They were scared. They were angry. They needed hope. "I will address the Republic," she said, "tonight." That night, President Kim appeared on every screen in human space. She stood in front of a simple blue background with the flag of the United Terran Republic behind her. Her gray hair was pulled back tight. Her eyes were hard. "Citizens of the Republic," she began. "4 days ago, an alien empire called the Dominion attacked our people. They destroyed a civilian transport carrying 3,000 souls, men, women, children. They did this without warning, without mercy, without reason." She paused. Her jaw tightened. "They came to our door. They killed our children. They expected us to kneel." Her voice rose. "They do not know what they have awakened." Across human space, people stopped what they were doing. They gathered around screens in homes and bars and factories. They listened. "We did not ask for this war," Kim continued, "but we will not run from it. We will not hide. We will not surrender. We are human beings. We have survived ice ages and plagues and wars against ourselves. We have crawled out of caves and reached for the stars. And we will not be extinguished by anyone." The next morning, recruitment centers across human space were overwhelmed. Lines stretched around buildings. People waited for hours just to sign their names. Old soldiers came out of retirement. Young students left their schools. Factory workers put down their tools and picked up rifles. Humanity was going to war. General Bayek spent the following days in his office reading, not tactical manuals or weapon specifications, but history. The Dominion had been conquering species for 10,000 years. Surely someone had records of their methods. He found what he was looking for in old transmissions, captured during the battle at New Montana. The Dominion kept detailed records of every conquest. They were proud of their victories. They wanted everyone to know how easily they had crushed lesser species. Beck read about the Kelthon, a species with faster ships than the Dominion. They had surrendered after one battle. The Vormex had superior shields. They had surrendered in 2 weeks. The Threll had weapons that could crack planets. They had surrendered without firing a shot. Every species the Dominion conquered was more advanced than humanity. Every single one. And they had all given up. Bayek leaned back in his chair and rubbed his eyes. He understood now. The Dominion did not win because they were stronger. They won because they were patient. They were relentless. They made their enemies believe that resistance was pointless. But humans did not think that way. Beck smiled for the first time in days. Humans had been fighting each other for 200,000 years. They had invented war. They had perfected it. Every terrible weapon, every brutal tactic, every dirty trick in the book, humans had created them all. The Dominion had never faced anything like that. Across the planet, Dr. Susan Lim was making her own discoveries. She ran the Advanced Research Division, and her team had been working around the clock to study captured Dominion technology. "It does not make sense," one of her scientists said, staring at a disassembled Dominion weapon. "This design is old, very old, at least 2,000 years. "Check again," Lim said. "I have checked 3 times. This weapon has not been updated in 2,000 years. Their ships are the same, their shields, everything. They stopped improving." Lim felt a chill run down her spine. The Dominion had conquered hundreds of species with advanced technology. They could have learned from every one of them. They could have grown stronger with each victory. But they had not changed at all. "They have never needed to," Lim whispered. "They have never faced anyone who pushed them." She grabbed her communicator. "Get me General Bayek." 12 days later, the Dominion fleet arrived at New Montana. Admiral Park watched them come. His fleet was outnumbered 5-1. His ships were smaller and weaker. By every logical measure, he could not win. Park did not believe in logical measures. He had turned the entire system into a trap. Mines hidden in debris fields, attack drones disguised as asteroids, false signals broadcasting from empty space. The Dominion would not know where to aim until it was too late. The battle was brutal. Ships exploded on both sides. Thousands died in seconds. The darkness of space lit up with fire and death. But Park had been right. The Dominion commanders followed their ancient tactics like they were reading from a script. When the script failed, they did not know what to do. They hesitated. They made mistakes. Humanity did not hesitate. When the battle ended, the Terran fleet had lost half its ships, but the Dominion had lost 2/3. Supreme Hierarch Velthos received the report in silence. His advisors waited for his rage. It did not come. "Mobilize everything," he said quietly. 50,000 ships, every warrior we have." One advisor dared to speak. "Supreme Hierarch, perhaps we should consider—" "We do not negotiate with prey," Velthos interrupted. "We will burn every world they possess. We will make them wish they had surrendered when they had the chance." The real war was about to begin. Captain Michael Shin pressed himself against the cold metal wall of the enemy station and held his breath. 2 Dominion guards walked past, their boots clicking on the floor. They did not see him. They did not expect anyone to be here. No one had ever gotten this deep into Dominion space before. Shin waited until their footsteps faded. Then he moved. His ship, the TSS Ghost, was the first human stealth vessel built specifically for this war. It was small and fast and nearly invisible to Dominion sensors. For the past 3 months, Shin and his crew had been slipping behind enemy lines, gathering information and looking for weaknesses. Today, they had found something big. Shin reached the command center of the station. His hacker, a young woman named Lisa Han, went to work on the computers. Her fingers moved faster than Shin could follow. "I am in," she whispered. "Downloading now." Shin watched the door while she worked. Every second felt like an hour. Finally, Han nodded. "Got it. Everything they have, fleet movements, command structures, supply lines, all of it. They escaped the same way they came in, silent, invisible. like ghosts. Back on the Ghost, Shin reviewed the data. What he found made him laugh out loud. Their entire civilization runs on one chain of command, he told his crew. The Supreme Hierarch gives orders. Those orders go down through ranks. Nobody questions anything. Nobody thinks for themselves. That is insane, his pilot said. What happens when things go wrong? They wait for new orders, Shin said. They literally cannot make decisions without permission from above. Every fleet commander, every soldier, every ship, they all follow scripts written hundreds of years ago. He sent the information to Earth. This changed everything. On the colony world of Jefferson, Sergeant Rachel Hong did not have time to think about grand strategy. She was too busy trying to stay alive. The Dominion had landed ground troops, thousands of them. They were tall creatures, nearly 8 feet, with thick armor built into their skin. They carried weapons that could turn a human to ash in seconds. Hong and her unit of Marines were all that stood between the enemy and the civilian bunkers behind them. "Hold this pass," she told her soldiers, "no matter what." The first wave came at dawn. The Dominion troops marched forward in perfect formation, exactly like their tactics said they should. Hong let them come. She waited until they were in the killing zone. Now, the mountainside exploded. Hong's unit had spent 2 days planting charges and setting traps. Rocks fell. Fire bloomed. Dominion soldiers screamed and died. But more came. Always more. Hong learned something important in the days that followed. The Dominion soldiers were stronger than humans, faster, better equipped, but they fought like machines. When something unexpected happened, they stopped and waited for orders. When their formation broke, they did not know how to regroup. Humans knew. Humans had been improvising in battle since the first cave dweller picked up a rock. On the 3rd day, a Dominion commander tried to flank Hong's position. His soldiers moved through a forest path that was not on any map. Hong was there waiting for them. She had found the path on day 1 and spent 2 days making it into a death trap. The Dominion commander died without understanding what had happened. On day 7, Hong was down to 50 Marines. They had killed over 1,000 enemy soldiers. The pass was covered in Dominion bodies. On day 18, reinforcements finally arrived. The relief commander found 23 Marines still standing. Hong was one of them. She had been shot twice and had not stopped fighting. "Sergeant," the commander said, looking at the bodies that filled the valley below. "How many?" 4,000, Hong said. Her voice was hoarse. Her eyes were empty. "Give or take." The commander just stared at her. Far from the front lines, Ambassador James Kwan was fighting a different kind of war. He sat in a small room on a neutral space station, across from a being that looked like a giant insect. The being's name was impossible for human mouths to pronounce. Kwan just called her the Elder. "Your species is interesting," the Elder said through a translator device. "We have been watching your war." "And what do you see?" Kwan asked. "We see the Dominion bleeding. We have not seen that in 3,000 years. The Elder's species had been conquered long before humans existed. They served the Dominion as administrators and record keepers. They had forgotten what freedom felt like, until now. "We want to help," the Elder said. "Quietly. We can provide information, supply routes, fleet positions, weaknesses in their defenses." Kwan leaned forward. "Why?" The Elder was silent for a long moment. "Because you have shown us something we thought was impossible. You have shown us that the Dominion can lose." Over the following months, a network grew. Dozens of species, all enslaved by the Dominion, began sharing information with humanity. Small acts of sabotage started happening. A supply depot here, a communication relay there. Nothing big enough to draw attention. But it added up. The Dominion was so confident in their power that they never imagined their own subjects would turn against them. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Admiral Park received an encrypted message from Ambassador Quan. He read it 3 times to make sure he understood. "They found the Dominion homeworld," Park told Lieutenant Commander Cho, "and a map of its defenses." Cho looked at the map. Her face went pale. 10,000 ships defending it. We have 400. I know. It is not enough to win. Park studied the map for a long moment. Maybe not, but it might be enough to end this. He began planning an operation that would either save humanity or destroy it. There was no middle ground anymore. 50,000 Dominion vessels blocked out the sun. They hung in orbit like a ceiling of death, so many that they cast shadows across entire continents. People looked up and saw the end of everything they knew. President Kim stood in the war room and watched the tactical display. Red dots covered every inch of space around Earth, her planet, her people, her responsibility. "Begin evacuation," she ordered. "All civilians to the deep bunkers. Launch the colony ships. If we fall today, humanity survives tomorrow." Across Earth, sirens wailed. Families ran to shelters that had been built in secret over the past months. Hidden ships carrying frozen embryos and genetic samples launched from hidden bases, scattering into the darkness of space. Whatever happened next, the human species would not go extinct. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of the TSS Resolute for what he knew would be the last time. Lieutenant Commander Cho stood beside him. Neither of them expected to survive the day. "It has been an honor," Cho said quietly. Park nodded. "The honor was mine." He opened a channel to the entire fleet. 800 ships, not nearly enough, but they were all that stood between the Dominion and Earth. "This is Admiral Park," he said. "Today we fight for our home. Today we fight for everyone who came before us and everyone who will come after. Today we show the galaxy what it means to be human." He paused. His voice hardened. "Make them pay for every inch." The battle began. The Dominion fleet moved forward like a wave. They expected the humans to break and run. They expected fear and surrender. They had seen it 1,000 times before with 1,000 different species. They did not find it here. Earth's orbital defenses opened fire. Thousands of missiles streaked toward the enemy. Laser platforms that had been disguised as communication satellites revealed their true purpose. Defense stations that looked abandoned came alive with weapons. The Dominion lost 100 ships in the first minute, then 200, then 500. But they kept coming. Dr. Lim watched from a bunker deep underground. Her team had worked for months on a new weapon. It was based on Dominion technology they had captured, redesigned, and improved. It could disable enemy ships completely, shutting down their engines and weapons in an instant. But it had to be delivered directly into the heart of the enemy fleet. The devices were too fragile for missiles. They needed pilots. "You understand what you are asking," General Bayek said. "These are one-way trips." "I know," Lim said. Her voice did not waver. "I am going myself." Before she could leave, a young pilot stopped her. His name was Daniel Choi, and he was 22 years old. He had only been flying for a year. "Doctor," he said, "your work is too important. We need you to build more of these things. Let us deliver them." Behind him stood 100 more pilots. They all knew what they were volunteering for. None of them looked away. Lim felt tears on her cheeks. "You are all very brave." "We are human," Choi said simply. "This is what we do." The pilots launched in small, fast ships. They flew directly into the enemy formation, weaving through fire and death. One by one, they reached their targets. One by one, they activated their devices. One by one, they died. But Dominion ships began to drift. Weapons went silent. Engines failed. The massive vessels became nothing but floating metal tombs. The battle raged for 9 days. 9 days of fire and blood and death. 9 days of ships exploding and people dying and the darkness of space filling with debris. 9 days that felt like forever. On day 3, the Dominion broke through the outer defenses. On day 5, they reached Earth orbit. On day 7, they began landing troops. Sergeant Hong was there to meet them. She had been pulled from Jefferson to lead the defense of what had once been New York City. The city was already burning. It did not matter. She would fight in the ashes if she had to. "Remember," she told her Marines, "they are bigger than us, stronger than us, but they cannot think like us. Use that." The ground war was brutal. Dominion troops pushed through the streets, their weapons turning buildings to rubble, but around every corner, in every shadow, humans waited with guns and explosives and pure, stubborn fury. Hong fought for 36 hours without sleep. She killed so many enemy soldiers that she lost count. When she ran out of ammunition, she used a knife. When the knife broke, she used her hands. In orbit, Admiral Park knew the end was coming. The Resolute was crippled. Half the bridge crew was dead. Fires burned in a dozen sections, but the ship still flew and Park still fought. He saw the Dominion command ship in the distance, the personal vessel of Supreme Hierarch Velthos. If that ship fell, the entire invasion would collapse into chaos. Park looked at Cho. Her face was bloody, but her eyes were clear. "One last run," he said. "I know," she replied. "Let us make it count." The Resolute turned toward the command ship. Every remaining weapon fired. Every engine burned at full power. The ship screamed across the void like a spear thrown by a dying god. Velthos saw them coming. For the first time in his long life, he felt something he did not recognize: fear. The Resolute hit the command ship at full speed. The explosion was visible from Earth's surface. A new sun bloomed in the sky for just a moment before fading into nothing. Admiral David Park was gone. Lieutenant Commander Emily Cho was gone. Supreme Hierarch Velthos was gone. And the Dominion fleet was leaderless. On the surface of burning Earth, Hong pulled survivors from the rubble. The Dominion troops were retreating. Without orders from above, they did not know what to do. A young soldier looked at her with hollow eyes. "Did we win?" Hong watched a Dominion transport crash into the ocean, trailing fire and smoke. "Not yet," she said. "But they know they cannot win either, and that scares them more than anything." She picked up her weapon and kept walking. The fight was not over, but the darkness was beginning to lift. The Dominion was tearing itself apart. Without Supreme Hierarch Velthos, there was no clear leader. Admirals and generals who had never made a single decision on their own suddenly had to fight for power. They did not know how. They had spent their entire lives following orders. Civil war spread through Dominion space like fire through dry wood, and in the ashes, something new was being born. President Kim sat in her office beneath the Rocky Mountains. Earth was still recovering. Cities were being rebuilt. Fields were being replanted. But humanity had survived. Against all odds, against every prediction, they had survived. A message arrived from Dominion space. Kim read it carefully. "They want to negotiate," she told General Beck. "The new Dominion leadership is suing for peace." Beck did not smile. His face was hard. "They are not doing this because they respect us. They are doing it because their empire is collapsing. If we give them time to recover, they will come back." "I know," Kim said, "but we are tired too. Our people have given everything." Before they could decide, Captain Shin arrived. He had been running missions behind enemy lines for months, gathering information that shaped the course of the war. Now he had one final discovery. "I found something," he said. He placed a data chip on the table. "Evidence. The Dominion leadership started this war on purpose. They needed an external enemy to keep their subjects afraid and obedient. They chose us because they thought we would be easy to destroy." Kim stared at the chip. They killed millions of our people just to maintain control over their empire? Yes. Kim was silent for a long moment. Then she made a decision. Send this to everyone. Every species in Dominion space. Every slave world. Every colony. Let them see the truth. The information spread like wildfire. Species that had served the Dominion for thousands of years learned the truth about their masters. The war that had killed so many had been started not for survival, but for politics, for control, for lies. The rebellion that Ambassador Quan had helped build became a revolution. On 100 worlds, slaves rose against their masters. Dominion soldiers who had never faced rebellion did not know how to respond. Supply lines collapsed, communications failed. The empire that had stood for 10,000 years began to crumble. Humanity did not conquer the Dominion. They did not need to. They had done something more powerful. They had shown the galaxy how to fight back. The Galactic Assembly, once nothing more than a puppet council that did whatever the Dominion commanded, declared independence. Species that had been enemies for centuries came together against their common oppressor. They looked at humanity and saw proof that the Dominion was not invincible. A new coalition began to form. Not an empire built on fear and conquest, but an alliance of free peoples choosing to stand together. Dr. Kevin Yoon, who had once dreamed of peaceful first contact, now served as humanity's chief ambassador. He had seen the worst of what the galaxy could offer. He had lost friends in the war. He had watched cities burn, but he still believed in something better. The first meeting of the new Galactic Coalition was held on a neutral space station. Representatives from over 100 species gathered in a great hall. Some had been free for only months. Others had been slaves for thousands of years. Yoon stood among them, the only human in the room. He felt very small. An elderly being approached him. She was tall and thin, with delicate features and sad eyes. Her species had been among the first conquered by the Dominion, over 3,000 years ago. They had forgotten what freedom meant. "We have a question," she said. Her voice was soft and ancient. "One that has troubled us since your war began." Yoon nodded for her to continue. "How?" she asked. "You were outmatched in every way, outnumbered, outgunned. Your technology was inferior, your empire was tiny. By every measure, you should have fallen like all the others. How did you survive?" Yoon thought about his answer for a long time. He thought about Admiral Park, who had given his life to kill the Dominion's leader. He thought about the pilots who flew one-way missions into enemy fleets. He thought about Sergeant Hong, who had held a mountain pass for 18 days with nothing but rifles and courage. He thought about humanity, about their history of war and struggle and survival, about their stubborn refusal to give up, even when giving up made sense, about their ability to adapt, to change, to find new ways to fight when the old ways failed. "You conquered galaxies," Yoon said finally. "You built an empire that lasted 10,000 years. Your fleets darkened the skies of 1,000 worlds. But you made one mistake." The elder tilted her head. "What mistake?" Yoon smiled. It was a tired smile, full of grief and loss, but also full of pride. "You attacked us." The hall was silent. Then, slowly, something remarkable happened. Species that had spent millennia in chains began to stand. They rose to their feet one by one, looking at the small human who represented the species that had changed everything. The elder reached out and placed her hand on Yoon's shoulder. Her touch was gentle. "Welcome to the galaxy," she said. "We are glad you are here." Yoon looked around the hall at all the faces watching him. Free faces, hopeful faces, faces that had learned, because of humanity, that even the mightiest empire could fall. Outside the station, stars burned in the darkness. Somewhere out there, Earth was healing. Ships were being rebuilt. Children were being born into a galaxy that was dangerous and uncertain, but also full of possibility. The war was over. The future was just beginning. And humanity would face it the same way they had faced everything else in their long, bloody, beautiful history. Together.